Welcome to episode 6 of Twisted Tales, a channel that focuses on the paranormal, supernatural, and downright sketchy stuff in the world around us. Today we bring you the ghosts of Gettysburg. So sit back, enjoy and subscribe, but above all, don't fall asleep. Gettysburg is a borough and town in the U.S. state of Pennsylvania. It's known for the Gettysburg National Battlefield, the site of a turning point in the American Civil War, now part of Gettysburg National Military Park. The park also includes the Gettysburg Museum and Visitor Center, displaying Civil War artifacts, and Gettysburg National Cemetery, where a memorial marks the site of Abraham Lincoln's 1863 Gettysburg Address, in which Lincoln used the speech to remind his audience that the United States was founded based on liberty and equality, pulling from language used in the Declaration of Independence. Lincoln stated that the Civil War was being fought to uphold and safeguard these ideals. With the American Civil War at its height, condemning the lives of tens of thousands of young men from both the northern and southern states of America in this one atrocious hotspot of death, one of the most famous and enigmatic ghostly manifestations in Gettysburg has become known as the Phantom Regiment, supposedly the ghostly remnants of a Confederate unit that still haunts the battlefield today, their ghostly drums and footsteps echoing through the night. Visitors and ghost hunters have reported seeing this ghostly procession of soldiers in tattered, but strangely unidentifiable uniforms, still marching in formation on the battlefield at odd hours of the night. The Battle of Gettysburg was a 3-day battle in the American Civil War, fought between Union and Confederate forces between July 1st and July 3rd, 1863, in and around Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. The battle, which was won by the Union, is widely considered the Civil War's turning point, ending the Confederacy's aspirations to establish an independent nation. It was the Civil War's bloodiest battle, claiming over 50,000 combined casualties over 3 days. There are literally scores of ghostly stories and supernatural incidents reported by past visitors to the historic Gettysburg battlefield. Throughout the last century, countless ghost seekers who made the pilgrimage to the legendary site have shared tales of strange and often inexplicable experiences and encounters in the area. Numerous reports exist from various parts of the park of apparitions of phantom soldiers marching in formation or mounted on horseback as if still fighting the battle. These ghosts are said to haunt the fields where Pickett's charge took place, the slopes of Little Round Top, the Peach Orchard, the Wheat Field, and numerous other famous battlefield sites. In the aptly named Valley of Death, apparitions of soldiers have been frequently reported. In the nearby adjacent area known as the Triangular Field, there have been dozens of anecdotal reports from reliable witnesses who claimed unexplained malfunction of cameras, recorders, and electronic equipment specific to that area. One especially high concentration of ghostly sightings and strange experiences seems to center on the battlefield site known as the Devil's Den and the area surrounding it. The ghosts of Gettysburg seem drawn to this place. Devil's Den is a boulder-strewn hill on the south end of Houck's Ridge at Gettysburg Battlefield, used by artillery and sharpshooters on the second day of the 1863 Battle of Gettysburg during the American Civil War. A tourist attraction since the Memorial Association era, several boulders are worn from foot traffic and the site includes numerous cannons, memorials, and walkways, including a bridge spanning 2 boulders. Dim spectral soldiers have been spotted among the rocks by many visitors at varying times of the day, and witnesses have reported hearing unexplained battle sounds echoing among the forbidding jumble of rocks in otherwise quiet moments. Several photographers have reportedly captured fleeting images of one ghost soldier, an unkempt, long-haired figure, shoeless, in ragged clothing, wearing a floppy-brimmed hat. In some cases, it has been reported that the spirit actually spoke aloud to a witness before suddenly vanishing without a trace. There are also reports of a ghostly cavalryman on horseback who appears in the area only to vanish soon after, as well as numerous reports of phantom sounds gunfire, shouting voices, and cries of anguish, all completely unexplained. Dozens of photographs exist today in private collections that are alleged to be evidence of supernatural activity in the area. Many different collections of stories have taken place at this particular site. Many years ago, involving a couple of hunters who allegedly got lost near Devil's Den. While searching for the way out, they saw an apparition standing on one of the largest boulders. The figure began pointing to one specific area that, lo and behold, wound up being the way out that the men were trying to find. When the men turned around to thank the person, he had vanished into thin air. Throughout the years, a shoeless entity has been known to approach tourists with helpful advice as to where they need to go. Thought to be the spirit of a Confederate Texas soldier, this ghost has been captured in photographs going as far back as the 1970s. He's even showed up in pictures that didn't detect him when initially snapped. In a story that appears to validate the shoeless ghost, a woman had one day gotten lost as she was traversing the rock-laden land. She began nervously looking for the way out, just as the hunters from earlier had done all those years prior. Without warning, a man appeared, pointed to the distance, and said, "What you're looking for is over there." And just like that, he vanished. The woman later told park rangers what had happened, and when they asked what the man looked like, they could hardly believe what they were hearing. Unbeknownst to the woman, she had just described in perfect detail what a Confederate Texas soldier would have looked like during the Battle of Gettysburg. Not to be confused with the famous Marvel comic character, a poltergeist known as the Ghost Rider is known to wander near the den. He will materialize instantaneously, accompanied by the sounds of gunfire and shouting. He will then vanish as quickly as he appeared, leaving few clues to his true identity. Another chilling story comes from a young woman who was climbing the rocks with her friend. As she rounded one of the large boulders, a hand reached up from a fissure and grabbed her ankle. Looking down, she saw a young man in the Civil War era uniform. Screaming, she looked up for her friend, but just as quickly as she yelled for help, the entity had disappeared. Scouring the area, no one was around who even remotely fit the description of who she saw. The Lady in White is another famous Gettysburg specter, known for her ethereal presence and sorrowful demeanor. A group of young tourists would record what they saw when visiting this legendary site. Legend has it that the Lady in White roams the battlefield in the historic town, her figure draped in a flowing white dress that seems to glow in the moonlight. Witnesses describe her as appearing lost and forlorn, her face etched with sadness. Some believe she is the ghost of a woman who lost her beloved during the Civil War, forever searching for him among the countless graves and battle sites. Considering the era, the role of most women was stay-at-home mom. If they did have a job, they most likely were not paying a livable wage. During the Civil War, if a father were to lose his life in battle, many children would be turned over to orphanages as it was believed their mothers lacked the financial support to provide for them. One of these Civil War-era orphanages was the orphanage we would be visiting this day. The orphanage was originally opened by a woman whose husband had lost his life in battle. Rather than give them up, she opened an orphanage where she cared for many parentless or abandoned children. Eventually, though, she remarried and her children moved to a new home out of the orphanage. Unfortunately for the children left behind, as well as those who had yet to arrive, the new mother of the house, Rosa Carmichael, didn't share the original owner's love for children. Rosa would apparently inflict cruel and unusual punishment on the children. These punishments included being shackled into the basement, being locked in an outhouse in the middle of winter, and at times being put into the pit. The pit itself is really just a deep alcove in the cellar, but as we each climbed in, I couldn't even bear think about young children sitting there for hours or days in the dark. And all alone. If this orphanage is truly haunted, and many feel it is, it's easy to see why. At one point, Bill told us that there is actually a family currently living in the floor above the old orphanage, which is where the bedrooms of the children and house mother would have been located. Bill then said what we're all probably thinking: I have no idea why anyone would want to live there. In the cellar, you'll find a few toys scattered throughout. These aren't remnant of the past, but were actually put there by current owners. Some people have reported feeling a presence when playing with the toys, as if someone is trying to play with them. A few have even mentioned feeling a hand touch them. I didn't personally have an experience, but Bill noted that oftentimes the toys will be rearranged or found in places not last seen, such as this one pink bear which was seemingly out of place, laying atop a barrel on our arrival. Once we left the orphanage, we had a ridiculously cold but quick walk across the street to the Jenny Wade house. Oddly enough, this wasn't the house that Jenny actually lived in. She, at the time, was living across the street but had headed to her sister's house where they baked bread and packaged it with water for the soldiers. Unlike most families who had holed up their cellars or fled the city, Jenny felt the need to be active in aiding those fighting. Unfortunately, this selflessness also led to her demise. Bullets had already riddled the house, and Jenny and her family had suffered a few close calls. And on the final day of the battle, Jenny lost her life when a Confederate bullet shot through their roof. Almost 8,000 soldiers died while fighting in the Battle of Gettysburg, but only one civilian. We explored 2 floors of the Jenny Wade house, which surprisingly housed more room than you'd think when viewing the house from the outside. Bill pointed out specific areas of the house that typically experience more activity and movement and in photographs than other parts of the house, and introduced us to certain ghosts, such as a ghost believed to be a young girl aged about 6. What a sight this was. The historic Dobbin House is an old inn that existed during the Civil War. The ghost of a Confederate soldier is said to stare forlornly out of one of the second-floor windows. This old stone house was also once an important stopping point on the Underground Railroad. Slaves who hid here en route to freedom further north were forced to conceal themselves for lengthy periods in tiny, secret hiding places located beneath the floor and in the walls of the inn building. Those hiding places still exist and can be viewed by modern visitors. It is believed that the ghost of the inn's owner and founder, Alexander Dobbin, still appears at various places throughout the inn, always smoking a cigar. Some believe that many of the slaves who came to this house in search of freedom and safety may have returned here from beyond the grave. Or else the spirits of some who never survived their flight to reach this place may have eventually arrived anyway and stayed. Spectral manifestations of the ghosts of Gettysburg, including slaves and the spirits of lost soldiers, have both been seen haunting the building, and strange, unexplained bloodstains are said to manifest on the floorboards, only to disappear in the light of day. These are just fractions of the hauntings reported at the historical Gettysburg site, a scene of true horror for both Union and Confederate forces, but also the civilians who lived and worked there, having to endure 3 days of bloody and barbaric combat. Thank you for watching episode 6 of Twisted Tales. Subscribe for plenty more to come. See you soon.